Hello, hello, dear explorers. Lots of chickens and roosters today in the background. So today I wanted to share with you all one of the Loom videos that I made explaining the restructuring of RE. And I guess the second one, I'll just attach that to the newsletter and share it, but there's no reason why we should all watch it together now, because I believe with the first one, 5 minutes, you're gonna have questions and I'll be able to answer those questions. So with that, Agnian, do you wanna do a quick check-in before we hop into watching the video?
Yes, I overslept. Good morning to everyone. I'm here. We can just continue.
Okay, cool. No worries about oversleeping. I'm gonna share my screen. Toop. If someone can, oops, oh no. That's troublesome. Wait, I have to change the tab locations, otherwise I can't access them. Okay, let's begin. Okay, can someone tell me when you can see my screen, and I'll just press play and hope for the best.
Yep, see it.
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
Can't see it.
Hello, dear Renaissance explorers. So I come here today to try my best to explain or bring some clarity to RE's major restructuring and rebirth as a DHL. And the reason I want to do that is because even though I shared it in our forum already, there's still a lot of questions regarding the restructuring in RE. And since our purpose in RE is specifically decentralizing seeds, wisdom, and knowledge, let's try to do that. Let's try again. So our new layered structure is this one that some people have already seen and that has been posted also in our forum. It's a 3-layered structure, with the first one being the foundational layer, the membership layer, the second one being our meta agreements, and the third one being the top layer of the organizational structure. This is a structure that is now going to probably be in place throughout the seeds ecosystem. It's a structure that I really believe in because it's both safe and very flexible. So in my opinion, win-win-win situation. Our foundational layer is the clear membrane for the living organism that is RE. We have 4 different possible memberships. Now, I received a lot of questions around this, so I'm gonna try to cover this in a second. So the foundational layer is that clear membrane. Then we have the meta agreements, which is the place where we have agreements on how the hell do we make agreements and who gets to decide and all of that. So we don't go into this crazy loop of insanity. We have the meta agreements layer. And we have finally our organizational structure, which is where we have actually the overview of how RE works, the circles, the rows, the policies, etc., etc. I will, for the sake of transparency, that was one of the questions I received, and I truly believe in radical transparency. I will share all of this in that original post. So I'll share the foundational layer that we have for RE. Ooh, taking a little while to load. And I will also share our meta agreements, which are in the form of a Go doc at the moment. And I will also share our RE funds management, where we can see how much we got for the first quest, which was an incubation quest from Haifa. And we get also to see the basic income, who is getting what, and the RE quest 111 also. It's not loading right now, so good thing that I planned on sharing it. Okay, I have 2 minutes, a little less than 2 minutes. I will go on the orbiting, contributing, transition, and core explorer part in a second. I just wanted to mention that the reason why there was this restructuring, I've told this story already in the storytelling space, is because I noticed that I'm a big lover of chaos and chaotic environments. However, as much as I am in love with it, I do not think that we should ever get stuck in chaos. To me, chaos is that beautiful place of endless possibilities and of that excitement of the unknown, and where any exploration can be birthed out of. However, we don't want to get stuck in chaos. Otherwise, nothing moves forward. So there was a lot of insecurity and a lot of stuckness happening in RE after a couple of months. So yeah, I spent the majority of the month of July looking for options as to how we could restructure ourselves. And what's happening in RE is the first experiment of this kind in the SEEDS ecosystem. And I'm super excited to be in this crazy self-organizing journey during this experiment and this exploration. So, foundational layer, everybody wants to know, how do you become an orbiting explorer? Well, if you're watching this, you probably already are one. To make it short, if you are in the core learning journey, if you are attending the sessions, the RE sessions, you are an orbiting explorer. If you have any doubts, contact me or Apostle. We are the 2 core explorers at the moment. And I don't have time to go into details, but I would just say that contributing explorer is anyone who is already an orbiting explorer and who has either responded to a quest or is proposing a quest to the core members. My 5 minutes are up. I love you all.
So,
Whoa, bravo.
That happened, and after that, I realized that I needed to record another Loom video to actually go more into details into that foundational layer, which I did, and I will share on Discord and a newsletter. But for now, after sharing that, I would love to open up for questions from you guys who are here. And hey, Mila, welcome. If you want to share how you're arriving here, please feel free.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm late. Hello, everyone.
Hey, Mila.
Okay, so are there any questions? I'm going to put my little thing so I can see hands. Are there any questions on what was just shared? Do you need any more detailing? Melanie, go ahead.
First of all, thank you so much. I hear your energy, I hear your passion, and I hear that you are, how to call it, back. So I had, in the meantime, in some days, the expression that you were also stuck in your crisis, and wonderful example of how to get out of it. And maybe I haven't heard it, but the part which I missed is the core Renaissance explorers. So if you want to elaborate a bit on that one to better understand how people will be, I guess, asked by you in the core team to join, or what that would be. And the second question I would have is, will we also have such a nice thing like Haifa has, where you see the roles? Coming back to what Apostle said, I feel from time to time I could take over something if I would know that it's there. So sometimes it might be also that the core people are not having an opportunity to share what task needs to quickly be done. That would be my 2 little questions. Thank you. And as you see, I moved places.
I see, and I really love that scenario. Okay, I'm gonna begin with the last one because my memory, oh no, I just remember the first one. Yeah, the first one is exactly why I filmed another Loom, because I needed to go into details into the actual contributing explorers, transition, and core explorers. So basically, should I share my screen again? I don't know, I don't think it's needed. Basically, as I was saying, you are an orbiting explorer if you are in the core learning journey. How do you become a contributing explorer? Well, you respond to a quest that is posted by the core explorers. And that hasn't happened yet, apart from Ognian, who theoretically has responded to my, I see his face, so that isn't very clear because there is now, I think, a board that maybe Apostle can share, but I'm not sure it's in place yet. If it is, Apostle, just copy paste it in the chat. If not, then it will be this week. A little board where we actually put the potential quests that can be funded through the campaign that passed. And the reason why, two reasons why we need to have those quests be quests that are posted by the core explorers and responded by folks. And I'll get into, you can also propose a quest, but I want to, one, make it clear that the campaign had very specific criteria to it, and the funding for those quests is going to come from, I think, part 2 or 3 from that campaign, which is funding storytelling and art contributions. So if it's stuff outside of that, we may not be able to fund it, at least not from the seeds from the campaign. So that's a problem. Well, not a problem. It's an issue. It's something. And the second reason is to not get, to manage expectations, basically. I would hate to see anyone come up with a beautiful something and come to the core explorers saying, hey, I'd like to get remunerated. And us being like, oh, we can't. We literally can't. Like, the campaign doesn't fund that. We don't have the funding for that. So to kind of manage expectations, I would love if folks were answering to quests primarily. However, there is also the possibility of proposing a quest. If you look at the board and you think, like, there's obviously something that Anna and Apostle have missed and that is completely needed, and I do know that it could be funded by the campaign, then please contact us and tell us. And if we say go, then it's a go. You can also propose quests. I just want to try to manage expectations because this has been a huge issue in the SEEDS ecosystem. Folks doing stuff and contributing and adding a lot of value, but we don't actually have the funding to compensate those people. And that has created a lot more tension than it should have. So I would like to set the tone here for RE so we don't have those kind of the situations. So yeah, that's how you become a contributing. You look at that board and you answer to one of those quests, or you come to us and you propose a quest. After that, how you can become a core member is by becoming a transition member. And basically a transition member has more or less all accountabilities and I was going to say rights, but that's a weird term to use. Let's scratch that. Has the same, follows the same principles as core members for the transition. It's a 6-week period where you and the core members get to kind of see if this relationship is working. Like, do you actually enjoy, if you start coming to the meetings, for instance, do you actually enjoy the other folks who are already there? Do you actually enjoy the dynamics and the energy? Is this an organism that works for you? Does it resonate? Do you feel like you're adding value to it? Do you feel like that organism is recognizing the value that you're adding? It's kind of like a trial phase for this more committed relationship that begins after the 6-week trial, when you can either propose to continue as a transition member, or propose to end the relationship, or you propose to advance that relationship and augment that commitment into becoming a core explorer. And a lot of the decisions in RE now are taken by consent, not consensus. The only one that is, not the only one, I think, but one of the only ones that is taken by consensus still is deciding the core members. The reason being, we really want to put the H in the middle of the DHO. And to me, I know some people see that H as holonic, for instance, or holistic. I prefer to see it as human, so decentralized human organization. And I really do think that it's at the heart of all of these endeavors. And so to me, it's really important that the folks that are working closely together, they actually want to work together. They actually enjoy one another's company. That doesn't mean agreeing with every single decision. And we have a beautiful structure in place to come up with proposals. And if that you don't like the proposal, well, that's too bad, because that works through objections and you need to have valid reasons to object. So you don't actually need to agree with one another, but you need to actually want to work with those people. And so becoming a transition member and becoming a core member after the 6-week period is through consensus. That means that right now, in very practical terms, Apostle and I are the only 2 core explorers. When Max, Daya, Julio, and now Irina and Reiki yesterday proposed to become transition members, Apostle and I had both to say yes. If one of us said no, then that's it. The person cannot become a transition member. And at the end of it, at the end of the 6-week trial, it's going to be the same. And after that, it's not going to be Apostle and I for long, I hope. And transition members are going to want to become core members, and we will hopefully accept them, or let's see what happens. But I hope that the core is going to grow and grow, and everybody is going to have that same process of consensus, so that no one ever has to work with anyone that they don't feel comfortable working with. For me, that is really important, to putting that human relationship at the core of all of this. I think I answered the first question. The second question from Melanie was regarding Haifa. So we do have roles. At the moment, the only people energizing those roles are Apostle and I, but we can have transition members also energize roles. And I do believe that that's going to happen next meeting, because we have other roles that have been created already yesterday in our core meeting, core and transition meeting. Things don't work. I do cover that also in my second Loom video that I will share. Things do not work exactly like Haifa, because I personally, this is a little bit controversial and not at the same time, because I think I've said that a lot of times. I do not think that Haifa's model is the best one out there. I definitely think it can be improved in a lot of aspects. I definitely think there's a lot of interesting aspects to it, but it can definitely be improved. And that's what we have been trying to do in RE with this new structure. So there are roles, but they don't function exactly the same. The decisions are not made in the same way. Maybe we can go into more details in later on. Right now, I see 3 hands up. I do not know who put their hands up first. So please decide amongst yourselves. Michael, Tina, Augie, who goes first?
Ladies first, Tina.
Oh, and first, sorry, did I answer your question, Melanie?
Yes, thank you. Perfectly answered for the moment.
So my question is around protocol, because I do tend to step outside of protocol sometimes. So I'm wondering, like, for entering for art for consideration, and then also I did put together a game, which is the proposal 111 is wrapped up in that, and I have I'm going to be putting together a presentation on sort of the entire process of that, and where it's being played and how it's being played, and some of the stuff that's coming out of that. So, and then also working on games with Javier as well. So how would it look to, or what does it look like to be able to propose some of these projects that I'm already involved in to be considered within the new structure?
That's a great question. I do believe that the game that you are have created, could go into storytelling, definitely. So the process would be contacting me and saying that you have a proposal for a quest. And then I'll discuss it with Apostle, and we'll get back to you.
Yay.
Okay, so Michael or Ognin, not sure who's Michael.
Go, Michael. You were before me.
Cool, thanks. And I think my question leads on from Tina's, and it has to do with my slight tension, and I'm not expecting an answer because I think there might not be an answer, is that my whole focus with what we're doing in South Africa is to create value flow into the seeds ecosystem. So specifically fiat coming in, and the way I see that happening is through ESG. A few people are saying that it's too early to be focusing on ESG. I think we're a little too late, if anything, but at least we're doing something. When I look at quests in the movement building space, and even here in Explorers, a lot of it is focused much more on movement building, in other words, getting people in. And that's created some of the value flow tensions within the ecosystem. I suppose that's a long backstory just to explain that whenever I read the quests as they stand, it doesn't match up nicely with what I'm doing. What I'm doing here also doesn't give very rapid results. This is a fairly long-term project that could be, 12 months to 2 years before we start seeing meaningful movement within the seeds ecosystem as a result of the work I'm doing on the ground. So it's very difficult for me to put a quest together that says, look what I've done and look at the results that I've achieved. So none of this matters too much to me. I'm just wondering if there is a way, as we evolve the new structure, that my circumstance here, which is not so much a quest focused, it's a very long-term transition project. And how can that be considered? And maybe it shouldn't be considered. Maybe it's in the new do, which I will establish for South Africa. And so maybe at some stage I'll need to transition out of this do into the newly created do. So I'm just thinking out loud. I'm not expecting any answers, just kind of putting my position, as it were. Thanks, that's me. Anya.
Any answer, Anna, on Michael before I jump in?
No precise answer. I do have a couple of reflections on it. But I think in this specific case, I would actually like to take this conversation actually outside of the RE storytelling. I think I would like to contact you privately, Michael, to continue this conversation and to share my reactions. So if you could send me a message so that I remember to contact you, that would be awesome.
Okay, then I had actually several questions just to. First thing, I don't know if I was like a bit tripping with still being asleep, but I heard that you said that I responded to a quest. And I'm very happy that I did that. I just want to kind of put it in the context. When did it happen?
I love that. It was. I do not blame you 1 second for not being clear on that. It was incredibly informal quest about taking the seeds roadmap, minimum viable roadmap proposed in RE, and putting that into a beautifully flowy and accessible infographic or an image or something of the sort. And you had said that you were interested with Thai, and so I considered that. Oh, okay. Jack, I don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah, it is, and we are still interested in doing that, though we just needed some context. You also had some idea, and then it ended up that we have some kind of meeting, but I don't know if we can start doing it. Do we need to be explaining something to you what we want to do, or generally to storytellers, or we just do something? And that was just a confusion.
I would always say that autonomy.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
my big thing. If you do have any questions or doubts or anything, please feel free to reach out and to send me a message. Absolutely.
Okay.
If you want
Sure.
any feedback, any
Okay. Then
my
that's. Sorry.
my idea and my quest put out there is just to take that once again kind of longish document and put it in an accessible, beautiful, fun way. That's my only thing. So how you do that is entirely up to you, my friend.
Okay. Perfect. The other question is, I'm a bit just confused. Who is making the quests? Is it the core team, or we are kind of somehow researching what's needed in the ecosystem so that the quests are made? Because we also have like exploration groups, for example, comms document with Mila. Are we in that group responding to a quest, or we are as the communication document is also something that the intention is to make it more accessible to new people who are coming to orient more in the ecosystem? That's just like just a question on that.
Overall, regarding exploration groups and quests, non-related and two different things. I would say that, oh, I had another thought before this one, but it just escaped. But I would say that actually regarding the comms doc, yeah, that is more or less a quest, is it not? I quite literally asked, let's consider that a quest, if that is interesting to any of you. Oh, yeah, the thought was quests should always be, well, not always, but should preferably be responding to something that has already been posted and seen as a need of value creation inside of RE. And I did say that anyone can also propose a quest to the core members, but please wait for that quest to be approved to get a thumbs up before starting doing it, just to manage expectations. I really don't want to get those tensions inside of RE that were happening in the Seeds ecosystem or Haifa or whatever. But yeah, regarding comms, if that's interesting to the both of you, and I see Mila, you have your hand up also, so if you can respond to that, if that's interesting to you guys, it can totally be considered a quest, yes.
Thank you so much. Mila, take it away.
So I don't even know how to start. Just to respond to your, I had this long list of questions that I sent you, Anna. So basically, what I'm hearing is I'm still confused about the quest and exploration group, because exploration to me, it seems to be similar at some point and not similar at certain points. I understand that it's with existing, there's an existing work, so like the Seeds guide, and then we propose, or you guys propose, the core team propose, this needs updating, this needs reviewing, that would be a quest. So in terms of exploration group, like the conflict was something that existed, but there was no guide, or there was no existence and of particular guides that reflected, that was responding to that. So that would be not a quest, but an exploration group. So that's kind of my first question in terms of really understanding the definition between quest and exploration group. Like BART has submitted a basic income, universal basic income, which is also non-existent. So would that be an exploration group and not a quest? So that's my first question. There's a second question.
Just before the first question, there is also something that may be causing confusion, is that we had been calling quests two different things. The proposal 111, that you don't need any approval from anyone, from core, from your neighbor, from anyone, and you just do whatever it is that you feel is bringing value to RE, and you go to that channel and you post it, and that's it. If you get upvotes by 3 people, that's it. No approval necessary. So let's just all together stop. We had this conversation with Apostle last night. Let's just all together stop calling that a quest, because it's not. That is the proposal 111. And I think all of you who have already posted there, you get the drift, and you understand that you don't need any approval. The quests are what is going to be posted in the, oh, I see there are a lot of questions in the chat. I have trouble reading at the same time. I'll try later. But the quests are what is going to be posted in the quest board by Apostle and I, and that can also be proposed by you, and you wait for the thumbs up and etc. Regarding the exploration groups, I don't know Bard's specific case scenario, because I had no contact with him regarding that, so maybe you could enlighten me about it. But exploration groups are formed if and when explorers feel that there is a tension that they would like to resolve or a proposal that they would wish to make to change the SEEDS guide in any way, shape, or form. And they come together with other folks, other explorers, or not, by the way, to have these sessions where they can have these exploration sessions with that purpose of coming up with a proposal to change. The proposal being both posted in the forum and being brought to the outer session in the beginning of the session, when usually Reiki asks, hey, anyone has any proposal? That's the moment for any exploration group who came to the end of their exploration and came up with a proposal for change to go to the outer session and say, yes, we have a proposal for change, and then we'll go through the means of deciding if that proposal is valid or not. Yeah, did that answer your question to begin with?
So this is only from my perspective, then the comms is both quest and exploration group, because it started out as an exploration group with the tension of the comms document not having multiple contributions that were conflicting. So there was tension there, and it wasn't just a quest, finish this comms document. So what proposal we're bringing on Monday is a different way of still completing the document, but with a different approach, which Melanie and I are starting and sharing with the comms group. So I don't really have a problem, because I'm guessing this is all evolving and emerging of what we are called, but some clarity would be useful as we go further. So I'm not really, we're doing the work right now, whether it's a quest or an exploration group, we're there. The second question that I have is possibly a little bit controversial, as I always ask the question, but it's truly out of curiosity. And first of all, I need to caveat that I absolutely appreciate deeply, genuinely, from the heart of all the work that you're doing, Anna and Apostle. I can really understand how much work you've put in since April. I read something about this situation with the core team. There was a conversation between Apostle, Kath in the forum, and Guy, James, and Bart. It made me think about the core team, because if this is the core team, the process is, if you want to go into core team, you do transition 6 months, there'll be a whole lot of people in the core team, more than members after a while. So what is the process? Because, at that point, you won't be able to work together with 20, 30, 50 people in the core team. And also, I can appreciate kind of the founders, that's you and Apostle, to be in the core team. But I think also same comment that I meant and question that I made for SEEDS Common, how do you deal with the potential subconscious, possibly, of situations where the power comes into play? And information is power. It's not just authority. And having core teams that are having meetings that is not transparent is also power. So power can come in many, many different forms. So if the same core team and it becomes bigger are in that core team, how do you manage the transparency, the radical transparency, and the power potential of what's it called? Taking advantage, basically. So that's my point, and I'm sorry if it becomes controversial, but I do need to.
Oh, absolutely not concerned with that. I love that, and I think it's incredibly important to talk about all of these. Maybe my facial expressions are because I was having trouble following it, and I want to make sure that I answer all of the questions. So I'm going to start with what's most alive, and I may ask you to tell me, remind me again, please. So transparency of the meetings. I have just written this down because this has been a request of all of us, actually, in the core and transition members, and I believe also from other explorers, because we actually do want, I mean, I can only speak for myself. I personally really want a space where we can have all of those calls, the core and transition member calls, completely public. And we still have them. I have them in the saved recorded. So I am hoping that we can manage to have that place put together where we can have all of that history of the meetings. Because actually well, the person who was like trying to do all this restructuring, I am really excited by everything that happened and by that entire journey. And I want that to be able to be publicly seen by everyone and shared. So yeah, I really want folks to see that. And I really want everyone to see how our meetings are going on right now so that people can see the process of it. I am incredibly passionate about that. It's just that complete honesty here. We haven't had the time, the mind share, the capacity to actually put that into place. But that's a huge, huge deal for me. And that is definitely going to happen as soon as we can make that happen. And now I'm not looking at him because his screen is black, but I am kind of looking at Apostle and being like, maybe if you can add that to your incredibly full calendar, let's do this together, Apostle. So, okay, that point, yeah, incredibly important and vital to me for the health and the, I don't know, the health of RE actually, and as a window for the entire ecosystem. That's, yeah, very, very important to me. Okay, let me try to remember that because I got too excited about that part. Oh, you mentioned about us growing into like way too many people. I'm not sure I got that actually. I'm not sure I got that part.
What is the cap? Because there's all these people who wants to be core team members. There's people who's in the transition. There's already 7. What happens if some of us, half of the RE members want to be core team, right? So that's kind of how do you deal with that? Because it's going to be almost difficult to actually decision-making, culture, everything, logistics, and making all kinds of things. Of course, you could do circles, but then there are more people in the core team than in the RE members, I'm just seeing way ahead. That's what I'm seeing.
I was gonna say, I can hear myself. I was gonna say this is seeing way ahead indeed, and I would, from experience, not advise anyone to try to see that much ahead in this kind of ecosystem, because as I mentioned with the restructuring, I had hopes and dreams and visions when we were back in May, even June, as far, not that far ago, and everything changed. So maybe let's just try to do one step at a time and see where it takes us and adapt and evolve. Regarding the how many people and a cap and all of that, I think it's actually quite simple, both from a human perspective, as to, I don't know, are people going to have that much consensus into working with everyone who would like to show up? Maybe yes, and then maybe that question will absolutely apply. Maybe no, and then it's not even a question. If it's yes, we also have to consider that the value flow that we're going to have, that we have at the moment in RE, already pretty much limits who is even interested in joining. To be completely honest, since we're talking about like controversial stuff here, at the moment, we don't have any funding for RE Core and RE Transition members. So we did have one Haifa Quest that passed, that was for June, and we got funding then. July, August, and now September, we have 0. And so the way we have been dealing with remuneration now is with this basic income plus, which is very small, and money pile ritual, where we distribute tokens amongst each other and acknowledging what we each did during that cycle. Last money pile, what we did was actually issue the first RE tokens, because we don't actually have any HUSD to distribute any funding. So that greatly plays into how many people are even going to be interested in joining. Because, well, ... people have rent to pay, etc., etc. And afterwards, thinking a little bit back, a little bit into the future, potentially Renaissance Explorers will be one of the DHOs that will participate in the SEEDs Commons and get funding from the SEED sales and get more or less steady, it's not going to be steady, but a flow of HUSD and of funding. But that will also kind of not limit, but give guidance to how much people we can actually embrace in RE. So I hope I answered the question in a very straightforward and honest way.
Can I jump on the answering as well?
Go ahead.
I think that maybe Mila was asking more of a, like, are there procedures and structures to handle a lot of people? And all the procedures and structures are actually described in the meta agreements and foundational layer. And actually we have a whole structure that could fractal into 20 people, core members, if we need to, or more. And the governance structure can handle that the way we set it up. I don't think that we have made the foundational layers and the meta agreements document public yet.
Not yet. Today. I will
today.
add that post today with that Loom, with those 2 Loom videos.
Okay, and links to the documents maybe as well, and links to the Airtable that I shared with the list of the members. And also the funding part, I think we would have more funding in the near future, and then we would need to figure out like how to spend it efficiently and do great work evolving the governance and the systems of SEEDs. So that's what we should be thinking about, right?
I'm mindful that, you know, Melanie's been waiting for a while. I just wanted to say on the chat, Javier has mentioned about 40 members rotating and positions being temporary. And that was what I was referring to about the power. Because if it becomes like the court, I can get that Anna and Apostol, you are the founders, but the ones that's coming on board, then if they are just continuous for years and years, what tends to happen based on research, scientific research, that people can get disconnected because they have a sense of power. So how do we minimize that potentiality? Because we are humans, perfectly imperfect humans, and it is possible to do that subconsciously, not intentionally or intentionally. So it's just raising awareness that we are humans and we can get prone to that, whoever we are, including myself.
Thank you for that question, Mila. The reason why I it took me so long actually to propose any kind of structure to RE is because I was convinced that if that happened, there would be some sort of power dynamics in play. And I am very allergic to any, I know it's not bad words, but I do have problems with whenever some people talk about leadership and all of that. I have things to work on with myself regarding that. But why I got so excited and I did decide to do this restructuring in RE is because this structure now it's completely impossible for that to happen. In 4 weeks, I think it's been 2 weeks since Daya, Max, and Julio. If they become core members, then those people have exactly the same power, voice, and everything than the ones that were there before. And then in 5 weeks, when Irina and Raiki join, if they join and become core, that's exactly the same. Everybody has exactly the same authority. That structure is not does not allow for anyone to have any more authority, voice, or any kind of power craziness on top of anyone else. And that's why I love it, and that's why I'm really excited about it, because it's actually the first time that I'm seeing something that could answer my huge tensions and fears regarding power and authority. So does that answer you?
Thank you. And Melanie and Tina's got questions.
Go ahead, Melanie.
I have, in the meantime, 3 things because I was listening the whole time. One is, the most important one is related to what you speak about transparency. Thank you for that gift, what you have unconsciously just presented to me. I feel I fully trust in the process. So if I can give you an advice, don't work on the past, rather work on the present and the future. And if at some time you will be able to post all the old stuff on there, those people who are art historians can go and research and make the story out of it. While listening to both of you, I do not fully agree with all your steps, but what I see is full trust. So I feel also the power discussion we just had is an important one, and still the way you set it up, and there I come to my second point, which came up while listening, is a bit like the Fibonacci formula, and the whole nature is made of it. It's 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and going on with that. And you will have subgroups of people who might never be in the core team and others who might stay there for longer. So it seems to me that this is really a try to find out how we can govern by looking at nature. That makes me very confident. And the third point was the one why I raised my hand. I looked at this air table and I feel all those people who are showing up in the outer space call are not included in that one. So you might want to look at it before you publish it. There are some names which I only see in the outer space call, which you haven't integrated in that airplane document, and I feel they should be there to be just in the orbiting way acknowledged. Concrete, one lady called Telma is only in the outer space, and some others are also only in that one. I didn't find them on the list.
Absolutely agree. Can you please write the names in the chat for us?
I don't have them fully. What I could offer is look at 1 or 2 last sessions and then give you the names on Thursday. Because there are some people which are only showing up in the outer space one, and we shouldn't miss them just to not get. Paul Mooney never showed up. He was only in the regenerative roundtable. He's not a Renaissance. But I can look at the one where I feel they are missing. I might not be able to do it today. So that was the reason why I raised my hand, and I hand over to whoever's next. On my iPhone, I don't see the
Yeah.
hands.
That would be me. Okay, so I'm going to speak into attention a little bit, only because, so I'd heard that, yeah, and I agree, it's important that people want to work together. But there could be a scenario where, is it like if one person has an objection, and then what are the criteria for the rest of the group sensing into what is at the base of that? Because I've already experienced being kept out of a group for biases that could have been questionable. So I'm just curious, like, how does that not become a power struggle when you've got the capacity for one person to keep somebody out of a group?
That's a very interesting question, for which we do not have an answer written in stone in any agreements, because our structure is literally a minimum viable structure that is meant to evolve with the folks, the humans that are present there. So it's meant to evolve with Apostle and I, with Max, Daya, and Julio, and with Irina and Reiki, and et cetera, and whoever joins. So it didn't feel right to, create everything from the beginning. That would have been strange. I can give you my personal thoughts on this, which would be one, if there is a specific tension with one person, and that one person is not giving their full yes for someone to join, then I would advise some going to Mila and talking about conflict resolution and regenerative culture. No, I'm kidding. But actually, we have to have something of the sort in place. This is incredibly needed in this ecosystem. And I would love to see, I love that this exploration group exists inside of RE, because that's exactly what RE is here for. And also, if that is the case, and you, for instance, you, Tina, became a transition member, or appeared in a meeting, invited by someone to the meeting, wanting to become a transition member, and one of the folks from the core team would say, no, I don't want Tina to become a transition member, then you would have the floor to express why you believe that person is not saying yes. And we, putting the H in the middle of all of this and being humans talking to other humans, we would have that space, and potentially even opening up a care mode, which is one of the modes of meetings that we have in RE now, where we could, both you and the person could express why it is so, without trying to resolve anything, but having that being expressed. And if the rest of the core team actually saying yes and one person is saying no, then I can't predict what happens in human dynamics, but I would imagine that we would reach some sort of agreement at some point. And if it's not the case, then it's not the case. I saw Apostle has his hand up, and I'm going to hand it over to him to give his opinion on the subject. It's just opinions.
Yeah. On our session yesterday, we had someone actually have an objection to something that we brought up, and we had to validate his objection. So
But
I
it
think
wasn't the same, Apostle, because that's
it,
about the consensus part of accepting someone.
for a foundational layer is a different
Yeah.
process of validating. Okay.
Yeah, it's when we were saying yes or no to Irina and Reiki yesterday, for instance. And if someone says no, it's no, and that's it. There's no validating necessary. There's no, that's the
because it's
That's
consensus.
the tricky part right there.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah, but also like the point of like being a core member means basically that you can vote on funding and on how to change the foundational layer of the organization, basically. So is my thinking about it is that we need to be very comfortable with who is becoming core member, and that we can play well with them, basically. They can.
Yeah, I understand. I understand
They show
that.
up. They show up. They like are part of the team and all that. Yeah, I'm not sure. There could be like interpersonal conflict that is not related to the work that we're doing between two people, and one is core member and the other is not. Is that the case? What that you're asking about, Tina? Something like this?
Exactly. And it's also like, just because I've experienced it. So it's like, and these are things that could be biases that are inherent from previous conflicts that are sort of, so the dysfunction of some interpersonal thing ends up becoming a part of how decisions are made. And I feel like that's something that is real, happens. And I really appreciated that there would be at least a space for both of the parties to become a little more visible in their biases interpersonally.
Yeah, I get it. I think that is one of the worst cases that we can think of, right?
But it happens.
Yeah, and then I would also like go into that. That's why Mila is working on this conflict resolution space, because
Me too.
not only here but everywhere in the system we kind of need that. And also kind of what Anna said earlier, nobody should be forced to work with someone who they don't feel safe working with. So it's kind of like, in that case that I voiced, first I would imagine that the interpersonal conflict should be resolved, and then it could move forward, basically. Or the other core members can decide, that's also an option, the other core members can decide that the person who is voting down the other person who wants to come in, they can actually remove him from not being a core member, and then invite the other person. So that is one other option. But I think we're getting into details that may not be that important.
I'm going to pass on to me just quickly before passing on to you again, Mila, because I see your hand up. Yes, I just wanted to mention that, Tina, when you say you experienced that before, I do know what you're referencing to, but you did not experience what would or could happen, because nowhere in this ecosystem there is this kind of structure that we just said here. So that would not, the thing that happened in your personal situation could not ever have happened here already from the get-go. And if it did end up happening in the structural way that we're speaking of right now, we are literally in a meeting being very well facilitated and having that process in place, then we would have that space and we could go into care mode, etc., etc. Mila, you go. Oh, no, sorry, Tina, did that answer you?
It did, and I'm only going to persist because because you are aware of the origin story here, but also there's a tail to it. So it's lingering. I had requested to be part of a group that I thought I had some interesting perspective to offer, so I felt like I was bringing some value to the group, and was told that there was one other person, without going into any detail, that basically rejected me being in the group. So there was no transparency about why, and I was simply not allowed to be part of the group. So that when you said that there would be, if one person objected, that would be it. I just felt like there should be an additional process for there to be a visibility about what the issue actually is, because these things tend to creep into other decision making where there's a loss of the history of the thing, and I feel like that could harmfully impact or create power imbalances and whatnot. So yeah, but your answer was great, and I see that it's being there's room to work these things out.
And
Yeah.
all of these consensus and consent decisions are made live in meetings, and like there is space for people to bring up their objections and all that. So
And it is facilitated. It has a very clear structure and process in place, which from my understanding of unfortunately what happened and is happening with you, Tina, it's someone said something to someone else that no one knows what it is, and maybe that person said no, and that group that you're asking to be a part of doesn't have a clear structure and process in place, doesn't have any agreements. It's a whole mess that was the mess that RE was in before. It's not now. So that could not actually happen. Regarding core transition and contributing explorers, it's just not possible for that to happen anymore.
Yay!
Okay, Nina, go, and then Melanie.
So coming back to what Tina said, and that speaks to power again, because power has many, many pillars. And so where the processes that we put in place, and this is also, I've experienced it myself, including myself being involved in that, and having that experience and also impacting other people without consciously doing so. So the key thing about having people decide, yes, I totally agree, we don't want to force people to work with people who they don't want to or don't feel safe. At the same time, we're putting processes as if humans are rational. And all the sciences demonstrate that none of us humans are really, really rational. It's all based on our own lived experience, our worldview, and it's emotionally driven at very subconscious level. And if we put processes that are rational, it doesn't, a person, and that's one. And second, with groups, the best kind of groups following nature is diverse, including ones that have completely opposing views. Of course, that does not address the interpersonal conflict, but interpersonal conflict are not about the two people, are about the culture. It speaks to the culture. So there's something in the culture that is actually voicing that there's a dysfunction, and there's a healing process that would actually unite us if we are able to put in processes and the time and space. So just decide, it's not a black and white. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not a black and white. This is how to do it. And of course, I do agree that you have to experiment it. But what I'm mindful of is if we are going to co-create culture, is also then co-create some modeling of culture that doesn't make it even worse. Because right now, as Apostle says, there's so much of that, and people are just blaming each other, and yet those two people are actually voicing a systemic situation. And it's the spaces in between. It's not those two elements. And it's how do you address that? And again, coming to power, you mentioned there's all these processes that people have a voice, but my point is the core team itself that has power over the RE members. If they stay in that position, like the DHO, the SEEDS Common, if they stay for a timeline, and to Javier's point, it needs to be a rotation to have fresh energy, and also that people don't assume that they have power over everybody else. That I'm just stating, I'm not asking a question, I'm just stating some of my reactions and tensions.
I would like to hand it over to Melanie and then Apostle if we have time, because we only have 9 minutes left, my dear friends.
Thank you for reminding, and I feel I can do it in 1 to 2 minutes. First of all, I'm more that pragmatic person who asks, is this safe enough to try? And yes, as you have all that energy in there, you have my full support. And I feel all the other questions will come up when we have the specific cases. If I can put a wish in here is, let's really learn with specific cases and have a kind of quest listening to all what I heard now, that you might, as a core team, want to put out that there are stewards who look at these wounds which are still in the system, because these wounds and old stories need to be somehow acknowledged and to be somehow seen, so bearing witness. I don't feel that other people have to solve all issues out there, but we have maybe want to have a quest that gives the kind of question how to have a stewardship for all these topics Mila and also Tina just raised. And maybe both of them might be in that quest to learn from what we experience. But what I would really want to see is that we from now on take the chance to work on the real cases that show up since that moment where you and Apostle said we are doing that very first step. And I feel, looking at Fibonacci and maybe the balance, which will be a bit more different than other people define balance, Xavier, thanks for that, we can really manage to do something new. So stopping now and handing over to whoever's next.
It's Pasto. Mila, you still have your hand up, or it was from before? Okay, Pasto, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna reply to one of the last things that Mila said, but I started thinking about something else. Oh, the rotation thing. Okay. Rotation is good when you're talking about governance, but this DHO thing is a mix, some kind of mix of a public entity and then a private company that needs to figure out funding and needs to actually get something done. So it's not exactly like a government. That usually in the government you have the idea of rotation, right? Because if someone is a president for 20 years in a row, they're probably a tyrant. But how do you manage this rotation when you actually have a very valuable person that is doing very valuable work? Like you tell him, okay, we won't work with you for the next 6 months because you need to rotate or something. I don't know. I don't think it's functional in this context. Also, since we're being controversial, I'm feeling this narrative of, oh, power is bad and we should be mindful of people having power. And power in itself is not bad. Power is like electricity. You have power I have power to pick up this jar and fill it with water, right? How you use the power and how the power is applied is the issue mostly. So, or the other side of that, being powerless. Like being powerless, what does it mean? Is that you can't do anything, right? So I'm feeling that part of this whole SEEDs journey is actually like empowering people. That's why I kind of came up with the name Empowering Renaissance Explorations for our co-proposal. I kind of feel like part of this is about empowering people who are doing regenerative work. And this is a big part of what SEEDs is about. So yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Apostle. Just read what I put in the chat. There's a little hint to you. Thank you, everyone. It's the end of our meeting, and I would like to do a quick round of checkouts, just a few words. If you could express to me how you felt about this session today, because we have been, in this divergence from what was happening before in the storytelling sessions. It started last week. You all said that you were really engaged and committed to this space, so I decided to keep the sessions alive. Today was more of a Q&A on the restructuring and the story of the restructuring of RE in more detail. So I would love if in the checkout you could give a couple of words of feedback on this. Gonna pass it on to Javier, and pass it on, my friend.
Hi, thank you. It's the end of the world as we know it, and it feels absolutely right. I'm really glad to be back in the maelstrom. This is really cool. It's the turn for Apostle, the laughing apostle prophet. Come on, give us your.
I love this Renaissance Explorers governance session, and I love how Javier names things. I pass it on to Mila.
Taking it all over to Apostle. I'm a lot more clearer and looking forward to all of your work, Anna, and just want to appreciate again, Anna and Apostle, the immense effort that you both done since April and all of the work, invisible work that you're both doing. I would love next time to start from inspiration. What could be the potential of Explorer and work backwards rather than this is the existing problem? Because also I have my blind spots. I tend to go into, problem solving. And when we are looking at potential and capability, there's more creativity that comes in like last time. So that's what I would like to start with. What could be just completely be, that our hearts know is possible, just completely out there, what Renaissance Explorer can do in the world, and you see it's that, then work backwards and experiment. So thank you. And I'll pass it on to Ongen.
Thank you, Mila. That was beautiful. I am happy and calm and oriented in the new organization, which is a warm feeling. Feel supported. That's very important. And happy that I got to know that I'm on a quest. That let me gain some experience. And I'll pass it on to Melanie. Thanks, everyone.
I'm just it struggled, but because in this second I got a chat message which was personal to me, and up to now I did not know that I was part of a conflict, and it seems I am right now, and that's something I have to digest because I didn't know that. Thanks for raising it up. And for everything I heard and have seen today, I'm very confident that it goes into the right direction. Also with testing that governance, and happy to be part of it and support whenever I'm needed and invited. handing over to, let's see who hasn't spoken yet. Tina, I guess.
Yay, Melanie, that was a private message from me, everybody. So I'm actually really excited about this because I've not understood, and I've had kind of a defensive stance that I've had to sort of like work through and heal, and like you just really oh my goodness, Mila and did such amazing work with me as just in how to do some of this work of relieving tensions that do come up through these interpersonals. And so and so this meeting really excited me. Like I finally get it. I get what's going on. I trust it much more than I was. I feel less rebellious. I feel like there's room for the ecosystem to thrive in a natural way, and that's important to me. So hurrah. Apostle, how about you?
I already went, but I think Anna has not went.
No, I didn't indeed. I didn't check out. Yeah, to me, this session was hugely important. As you all know, I did intend to have those Loom videos out before and then have something completely different today, but actually it was way better this way because I got to answer questions from you, and we actually had the chance to have a conversation, and a very interesting one, at least for my part, because it raised a lot of different questions and it clarified things both for you and for me. So that was an awesome session for me. Thank you so very much for showing up every single week with this beautiful level of energy and commitment. And yeah, that's it. See you next week. Many kisses. You can
Thank you, everyone.
Beijos,
Beijos.
beijos.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.